Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 12?
Hi, Fergie. In game week 12, it was green eventually. In game week 11, because we didn't do a show last week, I'd got a big red, but recovered some ground yesterday or this week. So,
I've got you down as red, see, because I've done the aggregate of the 2 weeks. But that makes
okay,
sense.
yeah.
No,
So
it's my fault.
yeah, it's a net red of
A
the
net
2 weeks,
red.
but sort of held most of the ground. It's very bunched at the moment, so still pretty happy with where I am. But yeah, last week seemed like, to coin a cliche, a good week to have a bad week, and this week was all about just surviving, wasn't it? Really,
I think so. I'm looking ahead to the weekend as well about survival as well, because I think like 8 or 9 of my players are playing away, and they're not very juicy fixtures. But I'm sure we'll touch on that in a bit. Adam is working today, so we are joined again by the wonderful Gian Batra. Gian, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 12?
My arrow was red. It wasn't a great game week. With that Bowen penalty miss, that kind of swung it. But, those things happen and we'll recover. It's all good.
Just want to quickly tell us how your season is going and your...
Yeah,
and what's going on?
It's not going too well. Look, only myself to blame for that. But I'm sure it'll turn around. There's a long time left, and I'm looking forward to game week 13. My team looks good. It looks strong. There's a lot of players with high ceilings, so should be fine.
Good stuff. 47 minus 4, red arrow, but your team is pretty template. It's pretty good, mate. You just got on the wrong side of the 50-50s. That Bowen penalty miss. So I didn't have Bowen, and also in some other formats, I've got Alisson, and my opponents had Bowen, so I was jumping around the house as if my captain had just scored a hat-trick. I was loving it, but yeah.
I was the opposite. On all my other formats, I have Bowen in every single team.
No way. Nightmare. Just quick look at my team. I got 52 minus 8. I took the minus 8 in the end. I kind of worked out that I was tempted to use a free hit. I'm glad I never in the end. My son used a free hit, and he scored a few points than me, but if I'd have used the free hit, I wanted to do De Bruyne to Salah and then retain Salah for this week and next week onwards anyway, and obviously if I'd used the free hit, I wouldn't be able to do that. I also wanted to be able to get rid of De Bruyne to be able to get Foden this week, so I kind of balanced it all up, and I thought, like, if I don't take a minus 8 this week, I'm going to have to do it next week anyway to sort my team out. So I thought I may as well do it in a week where I haven't got enough players. As it happened, the players I brought in, Salah, Trossard and Guehi, all flopped. But only a point dropped off Trossard. And Guehi gives me, a play now. Because I had Luca Dean on wildcard in game week 8, which is a bit of a pain. But all in all, not bad.
You're pretty unlucky. People who ever Trossard are very unlucky.
They were.
He was mustard in the first half, wasn't he? He really was. And,
I do the move all over again because he's one of those kind of upside moves that when they pay off, it's brilliant. If it doesn't pay off, it doesn't really matter very much. I lost 1 point in the grand scheme of things, so it's all good. Because he got the 3 points anyway. So yeah, okay. Red arrow from 210 odd K to 276. Like I say, it was a roughish game week. But I get Foden in this week now, and teams looking okay for the following weeks. Good morning or afternoon rather now to everyone in the chat. FPL, Josh, Vindy, R2D2, Feeborn, Ross Johnson. So I think we've got one of our violin moments for Ross in a moment, who played his free hit. Wayne Patton, Randall Howard, Wayne Fennick, Kaiser Sose, Dal. I remember this week, Dal, Dan Megan, Sajib Khan, Luke Vesthazen, and Pierre Nikolic is asking about Skamaka and Saka and everyone else. We will discuss those in a bit, I'm sure. We're going to be looking today at game week 13. We're going to be looking at dead enders. So looking at the players we're going to bring to the final 4 games. Wildcards are active too. So we've got the Fantasy Football Hub algorithmic wildcard, and we have also got Gian has very kindly done a wildcard for us as well. We're going to look at some... We can't do Hopta Stats this week because Adam isn't here. We'll look at the best captain for game week 13. Fergie is a punt. We'll look at our teams and plans and the competition. But firstly, we've got a couple of violin moments. And firstly, we have our very own Rich Clarke. Rich, do you want to kick us off with the violin moments of game week 12?
Okay, sure. So it's a bit of a shaggy dog story, this, because the context around it is quite amusing. So I was having quite a good week. Started really well. Didn't go for Trossard. Decided not to take a hit. Decided to go with 10 players, carry through Foden, and so sort of everything was all hedged around that. Good start on Tuesday with Neco and Dunk getting a clean sheet, Trossard blanking, etc. 22 points on the board from 3 players. Went into Wednesday, a couple of clean sheets for the Newcastle guys, kept the scoreboard ticking over. Got to Thursday last night, went into the Fulham game with 3 players, the 2 guys, Andreas and Mitrovic, everyone has, and a certain Tyrone Mings. And during the game, first half, I'd actually been sitting around on the sofa all afternoon watching Liz Truss's departure and enjoying the politics. But basically, my back went during the Fulham game. Really, really painful. And I couldn't really move, and I was enjoying the football. But then because the games were on Amazon, and sometimes you get a bit of a buffering issue when you're watching a stream. The Fulham game got stuck at about sort of 72 minutes, just after Mitrovic had scored. So I was in a pretty good mood there. I decided to go out to the kitchen to get some painkillers for my back, and I switched over to the Leicester game, which I didn't have any players for, but at least it was working. So I went and took a couple of painkillers and came back into the room, and then I looked at my phone and I saw that Fulham had scored again. And so I got all excited because I thought I'm on for a big green here, and I basically thought, right, okay, God, 3-0, it's got to be Mitrovic, got to be Mitrovic, hasn't it? So started delving into my phone to see who'd scored, and then saw Tyrone Mings had been, while I've been out of the room, he'd been booked, and Fulham had scored a second, and then he managed to score an own goal as well. So it suddenly turned my extra player that I had for the night suddenly turned into a -2, and I'm literally lying on the floor because I'm in so much agony because of my back.
Is that the agony to the back or the own goal and the yellow card?
Well, and I'm laughing to myself, and I'm looking up at this Leicester and Leeds game going on, which I've got no players for. I mean, Leeds were just so shocking that you just thought, oh, Leicester are going to cruise to a clean sheet here. So all of the clean sheets just almost completely wiped out any gains I made in the earlier days, and I just went to bed sort of like in pain, but chuckling really. So there's my violin moment, Fergie.
Well done, Rich. It's your first of the season, and it's a bloody good one. On the floor, on your knees, as one of your players gets booked and then scores no goal in front of your eyes. Fantastic. Well done, Rich. You are an honorary member of the Violin Club. We've got a couple more quickly just to go. Again, use of chips. FPL Ross, who is in the chat, says, I wasn't going to bother you, but here we are. He said, played my free hit chip. He took Mitrovic out. He took Nico Williams out, and he took Shah out. Kane in for 2 points. Firmino in, captain, 2 points. Wilson in, 2 points. Salah in, 2 points. Trossard in, 3. He's put Chilwell in, F in, 0. Perisic 1, Mount 3. Absolute shit show of a free hit chip. Liz Truss has had a better week than me. He says, well done for not playing yours. So yeah, Ross is in the chat. Lucky there. I was tempted. I'm glad I never now, obviously, but I could see the upside to it. Just didn't quite work out. And the final one. So Ian Parrin at Planet Sky sent in one of his teams from his Works League, and he just put suboptimal use of a chip. And this chap used his bench boost chip this week in game week 12. But strangely, in his team, he had Foden, Martinelli, Haaland, Jesus, Ben White, Kevin De Bruyne, Nathan Patterson, and Fraser Forster. So I'm not sure what he thought the bench boost was going to do, like automatically transfer him in, play in players. But you, Blakey's All-Stars, you've had an absolute nightmare there. So FPL Ross and Blakey, welcome. You are now honorary members of the Violin Club. Rich, let's move on to Rich Pickens, and we're talking about dead enders first.
Okay, all right, yeah. So I think what's on most people's minds coming out of navigating game weeks 11 and 12 is that we're going into a rather more straightforward set of games for the next 4 weekends. leading up to the World Cup. There aren't any midweek Premier League fixtures. There are plenty of European fixtures, but basically we're now into a less crowded schedule for Premier League, just a set of games every week, which is nice, and in a run up to the World Cup break. So really, I think the tactic now, anyone you bring in now, you've really got to take a 4-week view of the games to come, not worry too much about the games after the World Cup, because we all get unlimited transfers, etc. And so, this little section is really just to discuss some of the options that are open to fantasy managers during that period, who the best buys are going to be, who do we deem is pretty essential to have if it's not already. I mean, I've made the assumption, or with the slide, we've made the assumption that most people have got Haaland, Martinelli, Cancelo, those obvious picks that most people have carried through. So we're not going to focus too much on those, but it's really the fringe players that we've let go in recent weeks, or that we're now, top of our lists to bring in. So I think, we'll get on to wild cards later, but, obviously the first couple of players to mention and discuss probably are the midfield pairing of Saka and Foden, who are going to be very popular transfers in this week. Pretty much anyone wild carding, I think, would have those two in their draft. Let's start with those two. But there are obviously some other options that have come through in the week. Make sense?
It does. And Jan, firstly, do you own Saka or Foden? Are you planning on owning them ahead of the weekend?
I did it last night, so I've got Foden in. I've taken Zaha out, which it probably wasn't ideal, as in losing Zaha, but I think Foden's certainly a better asset. The reason I was comfortable losing Zaha is because I think he hasn't looked particularly good, even when he's had the fixtures so far. So I'm fine to go without him. Yeah, he's always got the capability of hauling. I'm aware of that, given he's a talisman, but I really didn't want to go out without Foden. And just comparing Foden and Saka, I think Foden in isolations for me is not clearly, but certainly like the better pick. I think he has better fixtures, given that Saka has Chelsea in 15. That's essentially the main thing. This Chelsea in 15 fixture really puts me off Saka compared to Foden. And then I know last night there's some talk about him potentially picking up a knock. And the turnaround's quite quick, Thursday all the way to Sunday. So that's probably what swayed me towards Foden.
Yeah, Rich, you did mention just before we started actually around the fact that Man City have got, and West Ham actually, and a few other teams have got three home games out of the 4, and Arsenal have actually got 3 of the 4 away, and that is factored into your thinking.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you see, if you look at the results this week, they were pretty much, there was a lot of clean sheets around. There was a lot of home wins around. And, generally speaking, the home team, does do better than the away team, just that simple fact. And so therefore buying in players that have maybe, that 3 out of 4 games at home is a sensible strategy to begin with. I think what sort of slightly stopped me pressing the button, because I've already got Foden, I sort of felt like I was a bit of a move ahead. And so I was going to be a bit of a smart ass and buy Saka late last night. I didn't see the Arsenal game, but because all of a sudden they put a flag on him, I just held fire on it. And I'm quite glad I did, because I might look elsewhere now for this week. And it's just that, again, that 3 away games, the Chelsea fixture. Not quite sure I'll go for Saka as I was, last weekend. He was definitely inked in to come in this week, and I still don't think if you've bought him, I don't think it looks like a serious injury. No. I think it's just a cautious flag by FPL. So I think he's going to go really well, but there are other options. There are other options at Arsenal, and there are other options elsewhere. And I think we can come onto those in this section, because I'm getting my head turned by a certain Mr. Darwin Nunez as well. So,
yeah. He is, yeah. Looking at the fixture ticker on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, the team's got the best fixtures for the final 4. West Ham. I'm surprised Bowen has it. I've even seen talk of Bowen being like taken out for a hit and stuff. And you go, Gian. You talk about Bowen first.
Yeah, I don't know how you can take Bowen out at this point, even for Foden.
I agree.
Because this week specifically, Bournemouth at home, you can't really ask for too much more. Obviously, they've got United the week after, but I think Bowen's still got the capability of returning there. Could have obviously returned away at Anfield, which is just as difficult a fixture, if not harder. To be fair to United, they've played really, really well against Tottenham. I was surprised. I thought they were brilliant. Then after that, Bowen's got another 2 good fixtures, and it's not like he's looked poor. He's looked sharp, so I don't see there's any way you can take him out. I'd say Foden's probably your best pick in that category, but then I think Bowen's a close second.
Do you think he might lose the penalties now?
I think he actually might keep them. They've gone through so many. I remember Antonio taking one. Then I've seen Fornals. I've seen Rise him. So I think he'll get another chance. Okay. I think he's only won so far, so give him one more chance.
A player I may be looking at as well from West Ham is Scamacca. So I know I mentioned him as the punt a couple of weeks ago. He seems to be He did play 90 against Liverpool, but that was probably because they were chasing the game, so they brought on Antonio with him. He normally only plays kind of 70-odd minutes. What are your guys' thoughts on Scamacca? Because he is one I'm considering this week. Because I've got Solanke, and he's done a job for me now, but now Bournemouth fixtures stiffen up, and I've got I've got the money there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think he is quite a good option in isolation, right? And if someone really wants to take a punt on him, then by all means, because I think he's looked sharp and he's getting progressively better, right? I saw the underlying numbers. I can't remember them exactly, but they were very positive for him. That's in isolation. The reason I don't think I could probably justify him at the moment is that I think the forward options are so good and there are so many of them. I'd rather either stretch slightly higher for someone like Jesus, especially if we're not going to go Saka, or you can look at Ivan Toney. Now, Ivan Toney is someone I hadn't really considered until I was watching the stream with Abdul yesterday. But if you look at his next 3 fixtures, I believe he has Villa, Wolves, and Forest. I believe. Yeah. And they're really nice. They're really nice, and he had the highest non-penalty expected goal involvement this game week, but he didn't score through Kepa's heroic. So I think he could be another one that's probably going a little bit under the radar, and it's probably a slightly better option than.
With Tony and Jesus, though, if you're thinking about bringing someone in, it's the 4 yellows that is, a risk, isn't it? You can't say it's not a risk because look at what happened to Maddison, and all of a sudden you've just got a problem on your plate for the following week. So I do think Tony is a good shout for 3 weeks, providing he can stay away from being suspended. I like Scamacca. I think it's possible. Looking at the fixtures there you got on screen, Fergie, I think you could possibly do a bit of a dance with that third forward. You could possibly say go Darwin for this week against Forest, switch to Jesus next week against Forest, and then go for Scamacca for the last 2 weeks at home to Palace and at home to Leicester. So you've got, you could literally, as long as you've got nothing else wrong with the rest of your team, you can just dance through those transfer moves and just keep switching around according to the fixtures. So he's definitely an option. But I like his last 2 against Palace and Leicester, as opposed to getting him in right now.
Yeah, that's fair. City is second. We all know about City. I think the optimal 3 is probably fair to say. I would say is Cancelo, Foden, and Haaland. Any arguments there, gents?
Not a single one.
No.
I think by some way.
Yeah. Everton are up there. I know they haven't been playing very well, but Gordon was doing very well before his suspension. Everton go Palace, Fulham, Leicester and Bournemouth, which are pretty good fixtures if you fancy Everton to turn it around. Also, obviously, Pickford in goal potentially, although they haven't looked very good recently. We all know about Spurs. Now, Liverpool, you mentioned, Rich, about Darwin Nunez. I didn't realise how cheap he was, actually, because he'd 8.8.
8.8, and I've been on Saka, for weeks, with the plan and everything, but because of the knock and and so on, I've got exact money. Well, not exact money. I've got enough money to do Wilson to Darwin in one move this week. Wilson's away to Spurs. Darwin could tear it up at Forest. He looks like he could put 3 or 4 goals past the team, doesn't he? He's very selfish as well. Did you see how he played? Never really looked for Salah or anybody else when he got the ball in the box, which is what you want in a striker, really. So I am quite interested. It's a bit more punty because of the minutes risk. But, I'm going to give it some serious thought to getting in Darwin for the weekend, just because I don't have to get Foden in. I've already got him. So that's kind of like it's good use of the extra move, isn't it?
I wonder if you'll get... Sorry.
I know you go, Jan.
I wonder if you'll get a better opportunity for a punt, though, because I think having a Liverpool striker, and given what Nunez brings, given his chaotic presence due to his movement, his speed, and slightly erratic nature, away at Forest at 8.8 million, I believe it is, and he looks so sharp against West Ham. Like, honestly, he could have had a hat trick. I don't know if you remember, it's ages ago, but the shot he hit against the post was kind of reminiscent of something Suarez did, where he absolutely lashed one on the post. So I think Nunez in the last 4, because you can keep him as well, because they've got Forest, Leeds, and then Southampton in 16, I believe.
Yeah. And he's going to look. I mean, there's definitely a chance he gets benched, right? And I think you've got to go into that decision knowing that he may not start all 4 games or is unlikely to start all 4 games. But with Jota being out, I feel that he's going to get minutes in each of the 4 games against those sides, and it just feels a bit more exciting than my other options. Obviously, I mentioned I've got Tyrone Mings, and I don't really want to give him another minute on the pitch from my side. So, brilliant. But swapping him out for, say, I don't know, Gabriel or something like that doesn't feel as exciting as getting Nunez in, does it? Really?
Be careful. Just make sure you check the presser, because I know he didn't train yesterday.
Yeah,
so that's what I heard at least.
Yeah, so he came off on 60 minutes, quite surprisingly, didn't he? But apparently he felt a tightness or something. So definitely one to keep away of. And obviously have got Champions League as well. So this is it. They've got 6 games now in 3 weeks, haven't they? So just need to be a little bit careful about that. Is Trent back? So he's right in the middle. Gian, do you think that Trent is still become an option again?
Yes. I wish I could get to him, but I can't. But I think he looks like a really good option again. I think Liverpool kind of changed their system, and the first exemplification was against City. Obviously, they've got a lot of players missing, and with one being hotter, they kind of had to go to this 4-4-2 now, because they just haven't been good enough with their 4-3-3 counter press. It gives them a lot more security off the ball and in transition. And I think you saw that against West Ham. The game wasn't as chaotic as maybe it usually is with Klopp. So I think from that aspect, great for his defensive. For his defensive side, like, he can keep more clean sheets, and then going forward, he's still the best attacking fullback in the world for me. Like, he's ridiculously good going forward. So there's a haul coming at literally any time, maybe even 2 out the last 4 game weeks, and if you can get that, that's pretty good.
I completely agree. Is he as attacking as Doherty? Rich, is Doherty an interest?
I don't think you can compare the two. I think Trent is way ahead of Doherty in terms of ability, FPL potential. He had, over the last 4 or 5 years, he's probably been the best FPL asset there is, apart from Salah, arguably, and he's half the price. So, I can't get to Trent without hits. I probably won't be able to do it before the World Cup. I think Trent will go to the World Cup now due to all the right back injuries that we've got with other England players. So I think he's going to be very motivated to impress Southgate, get him cement his place possibly in the in or around the starting lineup for England. So I think Trent's a great buy. If you're wild carding this week, I'd definitely have Trent in the team. I'm not, and I don't think I can get there without hits and surgery elsewhere. So I probably won't be getting him, but I do think he's a great pick. Certainly, yeah.
Looking at the list of predicted points from Gameweek 13 to 16, Haaland unsurprisingly top, 36.5. Salah second. Do not forget that it's so difficult with Salah. Look at the difference for him when he played against Man City, when he played against Rangers. I know that everyone goes on about the Rangers game, that they were just playing Rangers. It's not the opposition, it's purely his position. As soon as they kicked off against West Ham the other night, you could see Salah was just wide on that tussler. You knew he was never going to get anything while he stayed out there anyway. And this is the whole thing with Salah, innit? It's only because they got Forest and maybe Leeds that I'm thinking of holding on now. But I think that the injuries and the way they've panned out, the fact that the 2 who were injured, Jota and Diaz, are probably the 2 that could have played wide, which would have enabled Salah to go up front. The fact that the 2 who are fit, Nunez and Firmino, are primarily central players, leads me to think that Salah will probably stay out wide for the majority of the time. It's just the fixtures are so good. Forest and Leeds, it's hard to ignore it. But I would personally apply my own level of discretion on those points for Salah, because Darwin is also on this list, but he's further down. But this is a lot of historic Salah data built into here. De Bruyne's third, 28. Son and Kane, 27. Foden, 24. Cancelo, 22. No surprises there. Martinelli, 21. Saka, 21. Jesus, 20. I don't think Jesus personally is a good buy this week, only because of that pending yellow card. Next week on the Forest, he could even be a great buy just for one game in isolation if he's not booked this week. But if you book it, if you're buying in this week against Southampton, who kept the clean sheet in midweek, I'm just not really feeling that move personally. And obviously with Saka with his knock, kind of the same thing. I feel there's better ways of spending your transfer this week. Bernardo Silva for me is an interesting one, and the only problem is we're not going to get to him because we're all locked into triple City. But 6.9 million, he has slowly been really, really a kind of under the radar option. Trent is there as well on 20, Zaha 19, Bowen 18, Diaz 18, Calvert-Lewin. So his minutes have been bumped back up now. I think his minutes are up to like 70 minutes. He appears in the list because the fixture mentioned earlier, Wilson, Mitrovic, and Doherty. So, is there anyone there on that list, guys, who surprises you, and any omissions the next 4 weeks? Do you think?
I think just because we were touching on Doherty beforehand, we'll look at it when I talk through the wildcard that I built. But I think playing him just in 14 and 16, just playing him in those 2 game weeks in isolation could be really profitable. Yeah. You saw against Everton how Conte embraced him after he came off, and he had such a good game. And I think there's no reason he can't have that again in 14 and 16. And then given how the squad structures kind of are, you'll definitely have someone to play in 13 and 15 from your defensive side, whether it's Mark Gahey or someone else. So I think for his prospects could be really good just for maybe like a 2-week punt in those 2 weeks.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the thing is, he's so cheap at 4.6 for the potential upside that you don't mind spending 4.6 to bench for a couple of weeks, do you? Anything of interest there, Rich?
No, I think I'm quite surprised at Son's numbers. I think that might be down to historical data. Yeah, apart from that quick-fire hat-trick, he hasn't really shown very much for most of the season, so I'm quite surprised to see him so high up the projections. But yeah, I mean, you've got, I think you chose Luis Diaz for the graphic, Fergie. What was your
Ruben Diaz.
Ruben Diaz. Oh, Ruben Diaz. Yeah. So,
just for the fact for the fixtures. Yeah. And it's a tough one because looking at Akanji's and Ake's minutes, both of them, I think, have played 90 for the last 3 or 4 weeks. They haven't been dropped at all. But their fixtures are insane. We mentioned them earlier, 3 or 4 at home. They're just like incredibly cheap. I know it's taken away from maybe Foden, but if you need to save some money, if you've gone in on like Threemium, for example, and you can't afford Cancelo or something along those lines. But yeah, it's just Man City defence more than anything. I expect them to keep a lot of clean sheets over this next period.
With those 3 home fixtures, I mean, you could, well, obviously we want goals, but there's probably 2 out of 3 clean sheets there for City, isn't there?
Definitely.
So actually going to 2 City defenders for this short period is possibly a good play.
Any under the radar picks, gents, you can think of? I think Rashford still, how he didn't score against Spurs. Like Lloris just had the game of his life, didn't he? Otherwise it would have been 4-5-6-0. Rashford had 2 big chances. He had an XG of over 1 against Spurs. That's how good the chances were. Rashford, anyone else at all? Kind of going under the radar, do you think?
We haven't got, it's a bit of an enabling pick, but we haven't mentioned Kepa. We haven't mentioned Arrizabalaga.
Good shout.
As a probably, I think, the best pick out of the 4.5 keepers. He has gone up 0.1 now. He was available at 4.4 earlier this week. But you're getting, the first choice keeper is also on similar form to Lloris. His form's been outstanding. There's no way he's getting dropped for Mendy. And you're getting a Champions League keeper for 4.5 million. So if you're coming off Pope or another premium keeper and you need to find 0.8 or something, then I think he's definitely a consideration. So yeah, Kepa I'd mention.
I think he'll be a really interesting one because he's one that Chelsea probably don't really have the fixtures. I think from now to the end it's Newcastle, Arsenal, Brighton and United, and none of them particularly stand out. But then at the same time, with how we've kind of been playing and how many saves he's been making per game, he's always got that high ceiling game in him. And I think if he gets one, then the move kind of pays off out of the 4. Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that.
He'd be my wildcard captain because I just get him in on a wildcard with Ward as a backup. I think that would be good use of the funds.
It's a brave use of the captain there, not Haaland.
A couple of teams who are changing fortunes for different reasons. So Leicester look like they are slowly improving. They're fixing not the best. They do have Wolves. They then got City. Obviously, that's pretty nasty. But they do have Everton and West Ham. I mentioned Ward there. I had Ward on my bench this week, as I'm sure many others did. Another team, obviously, is Aston Villa. So Steven Gerrard sacked last night after the match. Apparently, travelled home with him on the team bus and all sorts of it. That was a bit of an awkward journey home and things.
I wonder if he sat next to Tyrone.
Would you? But Villa's fixtures are not bad. Brentford, Newcastle, United, and Brighton. Obviously, Alan's not here because he's working. We mentioned to Adam last week. We kind of asked him, about what he thought on Gerrard. And things. While he obviously, utterly respects him, and that it's probably time to go and time for a change. I think I mentioned last week as well. Their players. If you look at their players on paper, the majority of them anyway, not so much the defence, but definitely going forward, they've got some solid players. Any thoughts to any players from either Villa or Leicester? Just you think they are better. Like every time I look at teams like this, there just seems to be there are just better players elsewhere because of players like Foden at 8 million performing like a premium player at such a cheap price, etc. Any thoughts on either of those teams?
I think like you said, perfectly. It's just there's a case of there's better out there in every department. You wouldn't really be looking at either the defenses given what we've seen so far. Yeah. Maybe if you wanted one cheap option, then yeah, sure. But you've got Ward anyway, so I think there's enough cover there at the really cheap price point. So then going forward, it's kind of like who do you pick? Like, yeah, you can go someone like Maddison, but now with the fixtures for everyone else and the prices, there's just better options. And with Villa, I would stay quite far clear of all their attacking assets.
That's fair. Anything to add there?
Being an owner of a Villa defender, I can't wait to get rid. In fact, because I've got. Unfortunately, I've sort of planned to play Mings. He's got Brentford at home, which arguably you could say is an okay fixture. Brentford don't travel that well, reasonable chance, and I might have to play him this weekend if I go for Darwin or something or Saka. But I'm not looking forward to it. So he's coming out as soon as he possibly can, really. And I think actually going back to the a lot of us on wildcard in recent weeks have been getting in those sort of 4.4, 4.5 defenders. If you went for a Castagna or a Justin, you've done very well out of them in recent weeks. People have racked up a lot of points with Ward plus one of those over the last 2 back-to-back clean sheets.
Yep.
I think Castagna got an assist or something, or got bonus and a clean sheet, a few weeks ago. Especially when Raptor brought him in, I sort of noticed that, So it was, Leicester defenders on the cheaper side are probably where I'd look. I'm not sure I'd go back to Maddison now. Bit too late for that.
I think the 8 billion midfield bracket is quite strong at the moment, and Bowen, I would go Bowen over Maddison all day long. So yeah. A little bit in the chat, Richard S says, what to do with Doherty? The transfer to Gabriel, luxury. I certainly wouldn't be doing that move, Richard. I think Arsenal 3 or 4 away from home now. Doherty, as Jan mentions, has got the massive upside in a couple of fixtures there. Daniel Robert quite fairly says Almiron should be on the list. I did see a stat this week. Almiron, Rich, who we were bigging up pre-game week 1, has scored more FPL points than Mohamed Salah after 12 game weeks.
I know.
So to everyone, So to everyone ragging me out pre-game week 1, stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
He has been outstanding, Fergie. Definitely the punt of all punts from you, and it's just you got the week wrong, didn't you?
As always, mate. I always get the week wrong.
Exactly.
Couple of other points. Martin says wildcarded Kepa in last week with Ward as backup. Bargains. Absolutely, Martin. Very well played there. Dara asks, can Darwin cover Salah before the World Cup? I think so, gents. What do you think?
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Never mind just cover him. You could outscore him. If we see Salah play that, look, Salah's always got a mega haul capability, right? Just because of who he is, the fact he has penalties, and he's when he gets in those positions, he can be quite ruthless. But if he continues to play as wide as he did, then Nunez could easily outscore him.
And his Haaland Perber cap as well, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
On the eye test, Darwin he's very direct. He's literally, just every time he picks up the ball, he's not gonna look to pass it to somebody else like Firmino would. He is just basically gonna try and score a goal, which is very basic stuff. But certainly if he plays the way he does in the West Ham game, he's a very tempting option. And if you do say want to come off Salah after the Forest game, wouldn't do it this week, and move back to a Kane, say, or something like that, for the last couple of weeks, then if you've got Darwin in the team, it could be an option.
Yeah, agree with that. And like Salah without the captaincy, so City home to Brighton, away to Leicester, home to Fulham, home to Brentford. It's going to be perma-cap Haaland until the World Cup. If I was wildcarding this week, I wouldn't have Salah, and I would definitely have Nunez, I think. Vivian asks, Rashford a good pick against Chelsea? I personally think so. I think for the price, like so cheap, like 6.3 or something. Chelsea haven't looked good defense. I know they've kept 3 clean sheets in 4, but you've only got to look at,
Yeah, we should have conceded both games.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not, I'm not sure about that. And Dean Newt says his Violin moment, week 8 wild card, cost 28 points and forgot to confirm the wild card. Come on, Dean. The message from Australia where we do this late at night is never wild card when drunk and stuff there. So talking of wild cards, let's have a look at the wild cards. This is from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, the algorithm. If you go yourself to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, click on my team and then go to best wildcard team. This is the current team that comes up. So I'm going to run through it before you guys rip it apart. Ramsdale in goals, interestingly, with Ward as backup keeper. Trent, Cancelo and Doherty. So some quite popular options there. It does have Salah in, Saka, Martinelli and Foden as a midfield 4. Haaland, Mitrovic and Edouard in just for Palace. And then Konza, Justin and Murphy. Definitely a couple of players in there. I can see Rich is looking at Konza with like evil eyes. No Villa defender for me. Rich, any early comments on the algorithm wildcard team?
Yeah, I'd change plenty with this. I think I'd have, as I said, I'd have Kepa in goal over Ramsdale, just the cost saving, and it also takes up a Arsenal spot. Arguably, you would still want to have 3 Arsenal outfield players given their form. So yeah, definitely have Kepa in there. I would have Trent. Doherty, not sure on a wild card. If you've got him in recently, I'd keep him. But I just think Emerson is going to come in and get at least one or 2 games over the next. Emerson Royale is going to get a game possibly this weekend. So I wouldn't go Doherty. And I certainly would probably have Darwin Nunez in there on a wild card over Edouard. Mitrovic is fine. But again, Palace are a bit underwhelming. I think they're slightly shy on pace, and I've seen a lot of teams that are loaded up on Palace players, or drafts that are loaded up because of Guehi, and Guait is also a popular keeper. I'm just not enamoured with Palace. I'm a Zaha owner and thinking of coming off. So don't think I'd have Edouard in there. Justin's fine as a cheapie. Definitely not Konza. And Murphy is the wrong Newcastle option, in my view.
Fair enough. Just to say...
Yeah.
I
don't know whether there's anything left.
No, I was going to say, apart from that, it's perfect, Rich. I just have to say, this has changed. The wildcard team has changed because some expected minutes have changed, only slightly. But it's got Creswell in ahead of Trent, and then it's used some funds. It's got Saka out for Damari Gray, actually. And it has got Mitrovic out for Harry Kane. I should just add that in there because... it changes every day as the kind of intelligence and expected minutes slightly tweak. So, but yeah, not that different. Jan, it's probably not worth your comment on this because we're now going to show the wildcard team you have put together, if that's all right. So let's get it up, so to speak, and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with Nunez just because he's, I'd say, the big omission from this side. If I could have a 4 striker, I would. It's just, given that he's 8.8 million, who do I replace it for? Because I can't sell Haaland. And then Mitrovic has 2 great fixtures. Tony has 3. So even if I were to get Nunez in, the only person I could really sell is Salah. But then my question is, who do I go? Who do I go there? Because I can't go De Bruyne because I already have 3C. I don't particularly want Son. So yeah, I could get Zaha, and then I could upgrade elsewhere, maybe get Trent as well. But I think I'm fine letting Salah and Nunez battle. And if I lose a few points here or there, I think I'll be all right. But then walking through the rest of it, we've talked a lot about the City trio of Cancelo, Foden, Haaland. That's pretty much a lock. I like the Tony Mitrovic combination. They really attack the next 2. And then When I was writing about it, I talked about a plan, and it's essentially getting rid of Mitrovic in game week 15 for Solanke, because he's got 2 good fixtures right at the end, and he's paid me big dividends, as he has many other managers. So I'm happy to get him in there. Then if you look at the rest of it, but Bowen, like we spoke about, a really good option this week.
Agree with that.
And for 15 and 16. Then we've got Foden, we've got Bowen, we've got Salah. The other one's Martinelli. I think he's just an instant pick for pretty much anyone. You have a lot of value stored there, good fixtures. Yes, they're away, and I think that's important, because I think being away from home has been maybe slightly more difficult than usual this season. Yeah. But just with the fixtures, the form, the price, I don't think you can go anywhere. Then the defense is where it gets kind of interesting, and it's kind of why I like this wildcard quite a lot. It's essentially just using the rotations between them. So I think you start Ward in one particular game week. I believe that's game week 15. When he has Everton, it might be 14, but I think it's 15. The other 3 start Guaita. Then this week, look, Spurs and Newcastle play each other. It's not ideal for either of them. And that's kind of why I have Zuma there. You get to have him for the Bournemouth fixture. You play Cancelo, and then you play Trippier or Guehi. You can go for the fixture, or you can go for maybe the form there. I'd probably go Trippier just because I know he's got a higher ceiling. And I would have gone Anderson over Guehi, but I couldn't afford it in this particular instance. And then you kind of just mix and match the defenders. I don't think Zuma plays again. He doesn't play again against United, and you'll have quite a strong team there. You'll have Doherty to play Cancelo and Trippier, all 3 really high upside options. In 15, Zuma's out. You get Dalot in for 1 week, and then in 16, the team's strong enough to just play itself. So I quite like it.
So notably, and some of the chat comments, there's only one Arsenal asset in there, Jan. Do you not think that's a little underbid?
Well, I will have Jesus for game week 16. That was the last thing. I will go Tony to Jesus game week 16. But the way I see it is, if we're not going to have Saka, then there's not one I really want else. Like I know the AI said Ramsdale, but I'm more than happy to go without one of their defenders. I think they'll concede at Chelsea. And just given that they're away to Southampton and Forest, and I thought they got very lucky Leeds away to walk over the clean sheet. I see 1 clean sheet out of those 3. So I'm fine not having a defensive asset. We've talked about Saka. And then we've obviously got the Jesus conundrum with 4 yellows, and the fact that he blocks another forward position when there's so many good options. So maybe slightly rogue, but I'm okay with it.
I kind of agree, though. I think that home game to Forest is massive. I think that's the key game, isn't it, where you really want double or triple. But other than that, I don't think they're that good. And don't get me wrong, I think Arsenal have been playing very, very well, but I prefer personally Bowen over Saka over the 4 game weeks. Jesus is a card away from a ban, and there are other options: Mitrovic, Tony, maybe even Scamacca and players like that. So I do get it. I get the the thing about the Arsenal.
I'll just make it. Obviously, I very much watched that Tuesday game with Brighton and Forest, right? I mean, Brighton have, I think it was a comment on Match of the Day, I think they've had something like 54 shots or something since they scored a goal, Brighton.
Yeah.
But their volume of shots per game is huge. It's like something like between 16 and 20 shots per game or something they're putting together, but they haven't scored. They cut Forest to ribbons in the first half. Just remind you what Arsenal are going to do to Forest in that. They just won't be able to keep up with the passing, with the speed of play. I think that could be another 8-9-0.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Home to Forest next week. I think Forest are possibly going to get a couple of really good hidings over the next couple of fixtures. And so I think targeting them with transfers or on a wild card is very, very sensible, particularly if you're making a wild card and you're a long way back. You want to have some differences to the template teams. Yes, I can understand the logic of maybe not getting Saka in this week as an absolute imperative, but I think he's okay. Just before we started the team, I caught up with the highlights. He after he'd had that knock, he had another shot. He was brought off. I do think it's a minor knock. So I think one of Saka, because everyone's got Martinelli, so you've got no advantage by having Martinelli. If you're going to want some gains, you've got to have a Jesus or a Saka in there. I agree with your comment about not needing an Arsenal defender. I think rotating any of a number of assets around Trippier and Cancelo is fine up until the World Cup. But actually having at least a second Arsenal for next weekend is
I completely agree with
wise.
next weekend. I'm not so bullish about this weekend, and that's the
I
thing.
think if you wanted to rejig it, you could just sell Salah, go one of Mitrovic or Tony to Nunez to attack the Forest fixture this week, because that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Sell Salah for Saka, and then maybe if you've got the money, upgrade to Trent at the back. You should.
Yeah.
So that's something you could do as a three-way move.
Yeah.
Like now.
And just to touch on Liverpool as well, actually, I think this is quite, I think it's quite an important point, because I think Salah's points potential basically rests on Nunez's fitness or not over the next 24 hours, because I think if Nunez is going to miss the game this weekend, for example, against Forest, who we just mentioned, Rich, absolutely all over the shop, and Salah plays up front against them, he'll score an absolute hatful. And if you don't have him, then that could be quite, especially going in then to Leeds next week, again, maybe without Nunez. So I think it's pretty vital, actually, that FPL managers were considering between the two keep close eyes on the presses. And because Liverpool's the first game tomorrow as well, you may even get some early team news. But I think I personally think that's quite pivotal. I think non-Salah owners are going to want Nunez to be fit, because if not, and Salah plays up front in the three, I think that could be carnage.
Yeah, it could be. It just could be another Bournemouth, couldn't it? It could just be, it really could.
0 points for Salah.
Yeah, well, yeah, wouldn't that be?
But he'd be playing up
amazing?
front, wouldn't he? With if Nunez isn't fit, so. But yeah, good stuff, and thank you, Gian, for producing this. Some really good chat there, and largely.
Yeah, you provoked quite a lot of reaction there, Gian, with those choices. I think. What are they saying?
I think the good thing about wildcard is that just in general, there's a lot of options that you can go for, and I think it's good that people have different teams that are wildcarding rather than everyone just having the same team.
And there's never a right answer, right? So every week, the Hub wildcard team gets ridiculed, and every week it absolutely smashes it, because it's not trending on Twitter, people don't like it. But if you actually look into it, it's done really, really well. So
some of the comments, Fergie, we've got Darwin is getting a scan on his hamstring from someone called N or NK. Yeah. We've got Darwin is a greedy striker, good FPL asset. Not if you own Salah though. Interesting.
Agree with that.
Do we think Trent starts against Forest such a short period after a 90-minute injury return midweek? Well, that's a bit of a long way off the Forest game, I suppose. I don't know. What do you think on that Trent start? Think Trent gets 2 consecutive starts?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Can't see
so.
why not.
I think so.
Can't see why not.
It is the early kickoff, right?
It is the early kickoff. Yeah.
I
still think
that
he
always
starts.
goes wrong.
I still think he starts. Daniel Roberts says no Almiron, and obviously Robertson is a bit of a non-option at the moment, isn't he? Because Simicast has been come in and done well, an assist in the week. Obviously, marvellous cross for Nunez's header. Okay, let's look at the best FPL captain for game week 13. We've got the predicted points up now, just for this game week, and Salah is top ahead of Haaland. Interestingly, it's probably like I say, it's taken into account historical data and things, but that game against Forest, if he plays up front, could be. I personally prefer it. If I knew Salah was playing up front, I prefer Salah as captain than Haaland this week because of the extra point potential. Personally. So Salah's top 8.8, Haaland 7, Son and Kane 6, De Bruyne 5.7, then Martinelli and Jesus. According to oddschecker.com, Erling Haaland is 1 to 2 on to score any time, which is pretty insane. Salah is even money, but I do think that will change if Nunez is ruled out, and Darwin is 6 to 5 against. So if you do fancy Darwin to score against Forest, 6 to 5 against are pretty good odds. And Harry Kane is 11 to 8. Obviously, we haven't really mentioned Spurs home to Newcastle on Sunday. It'll be an interesting game. That I think it's quite hard to call. Jan, what's your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, that is going to be a difficult game. I believe, I think it's at Newcastle, right? I'm just checking. Yeah, no, you're right. It is at Spurs. Look, I think it's a difficult game. With how they've looked, they look compact. Spurs obviously can have those spells within games where they're slow on transition. They struggle to build centrally, especially if they're playing at 3. And I think Newcastle could really do a job on them if that's the case. But then the flip side of it is that they have Son and Kane, and they're such high quality players with Perisic and Doherty on the flanks that they can turn it on any second. So I'm quite wary of that fixture in the sense that I'm not going to give I'm not too sure who's going to win. I think I've got a feeling like it's going to be a 1-1, maybe even a 2-1 Newcastle. I've just got a feeling they might pull it off. But yeah, I'm not too optimistic about Spurs' chances in that game.
I feel the same as a Spurs fan. I don't really know what's happened at the moment with Spurs. They just don't seem to be playing with, they seem to be just playing within themselves and just trying to nick the 1-0s. And they've got the players. They don't need to do that. They're a very, very good team with great players. I just don't understand why they feel need to do that in every single game. Take the game to play. Take the game to teams. And it's the first time I was really, fair play to Man United. I give them a lot of stick. I think quite rightly over last few years, but they completely outplayed everything Spurs midweek. They were absolutely superb, and I was really disappointed with Tottenham. But that's why I fancy Rashford. I gotta say 6.3. I think Rashford is a.
Do you think
really
against Chelsea though?
I think against anyone.
Space in behind.
Well, he plays up front, and Kepa has had to save them how many times these last few weeks?
Yeah,
I think Rashford as a transfer in at 6.3 million is. I think he's going under the radar. I really do.
Yeah, but not for Chelsea away though.
I'd argue so.
Would you?
I do, yeah,
okay.
because I think the Chelsea defensively at the moment, their clean sheets are flattering to deceive for their actual performances.
Right.
Captaincy, gents. Rich, would you be captaining a certain Norwegian this week?
Yeah, I will be. Yeah, I mean, it's just there'll be a backlash after the Liverpool defeat. They've had a week off. They've all rested. Home game, yeah, definitely. Haaland. Just I know the predicted points is higher for Salah this week, but I think given all the the doubt over where Salah's going to play and the Darwin situation, I just think just go with Haaland, and I won't be deviating from that. I think if you want to gain rank, then it's an opportunity. If you're way down in the millions, you want to climb, then not a bad week to take a punt on a Liverpool player, is it? Any of Trent, Salah, or Darwin could smash it against Forest. So that you won't gain much rank captaining Haaland, but you won't lose much rank captaining, in my view.
No, agree. Just to say, Rashford is 6.6. I've been corrected in the chat. Thank you, NK and 3 Patevra. I still think 6.6 is ridiculous value. Gian, captaincy for this week.
Yeah, I kind of echo that. I think Haaland is the best option. But if you do get news that Liverpool are Darwinless, and you wanted a punt, then it's not the worst punt in the world.
Not the worst punt in the world. The best player, the most decorated player in the Premier League in recent times against the worst defence the Premier League has maybe ever seen. It's a bit of a punt.
It's not too bad an option. Look, I think the way I look at Haaland is he kind of starts on a floor of 6 points roughly.
He does. You're right there.
But yeah, look, I think it just takes some miracle that he blanks again, which I don't think he will. And Salah has one of those games with Darwin not playing.
Yeah.
Then you are looking at a huge swing.
Agree.
And all that really has to happen is one unbelievable centre-back performance from a Brighton individual. But that's a long way away. But yeah, there's a punt there. There's an opportunity, but I think for me, it's just Haaland.
Adam Hopcroft is in the chat. If anyone wants to have a chat with Adam there, ask him anything about Aston Villa or anything else. Let's have a quick look at Fergie is a punt ahead of game week 13. How did you do last? I can't remember who I picked last week. I picked Podence. I targeted Forest, picked Podence, didn't do anything. Does a clean sheet point count? No, I can't count, can it? But Podence no good. But this week I have gone for someone played midweek, 6 shots midweek, 3 on target, playing a defence who have been keeping clean sheets, but their keeper has been in massively inspired form, and the team this player plays for is massively on the ups. It's one of those form swings that you try and jump on really early, hence why I've been talking about a player or two. Only 2.1% owned, but the stats midweek, the performance midweek, scored midweek as well. Jan, I don't know if you've seen it. Under Rich, so I can't ask Rich. Any idea what I'm talking about at all?
I mean, I thought it was Rashford until you said he scored midweek. 6 shots. You got to.
6 shots,
I mean,
3 on target.
Leno had a very good performance, so but it's not going to be anyone from Villa. I'm drawing blanks, to be honest.
Well, the punt this week is only 2% owned, which if you'd have said this a couple of years ago, you would have been laughed out of town. But it is Bruno Fernandes. Looked really good midweek.
What price is he now, Fergie?
He is. So I haven't actually got it in front of me. I think something like, I want to say 9.8, but I may be.
That's what
wrong.
I thought.
I may be wrong, but yeah, 6 shots midweek, 3 on target, shot in the box. Big chances created. Key passes 9. This is in one game against Spurs, and this is why I think that United against Chelsea, because like I say, I think Chelsea have been, they've been getting the results, but you guys are Chelsea fans. I think it's probably fair to say that Kepa has been ridiculously outstanding for. He just can't keep up that level of performance week on week. United was scintillating against Spurs, and I think the whole Rashford, Anthony, Bruno thing is going to do well for the next 3 weeks. So I think Bruno for this week. But I think
well, it's a good shout. I mean, I do think he's a good pick for a punt. I mean, obviously he's a million more than Nunez. He's just on the edge of that sort of premium price, so you're struggling to fit him in if you've got Salah in your team. So but you could punt him on a wild card if you're on wild card this week.
You could, or even your wild card the next week. You could just bring him in for a 1 week punt. Yeah. But I do fancy him. Like I say, I fancy United after watching them destroy Spurs. They absolutely did midweek. They look and they're on the app. I just hope. I say I hope. How many times have we seen from United they put in a display like this and then the next week they go back to how they were? So I do wonder whether they'll.
Well, the other point is as well, he does tend to play better when Ronaldo isn't playing, and we all know Ronaldo isn't playing, right? Because he's been
exactly, which means Rashford starts up front as well. So I think I'm pretty hot on United. I can't believe I'm saying that after all the stick I've given him over the last few weeks. But Casemiro, he seems to have made a difference as well. I think to that whole team with his experience and and probably his his motivation and and positivity. The defense is performing well. Dallow's looking really good as well. And I'm pretty hot. Fixtures aren't amazing for the next two.
Anthony?
What's that? Sorry.
What about Anthony?
I think he looks superb. He's just a bit. I think comparing the prices, I prefer Rashford to Anthony, but I do like Ant. He's very one-footed. That's the only thing I'd say about him. You know exactly where he's going. He's going inside and curling it to the far post every single time he gets the ball, but he looks really good. So I think game week 15 and 16 away to Villa, away to Fulham. I think you could do worse than doing that. A lot of thing in the chat about Spurs. NK, we slapped up Spurs, and Tom Minton says Spurs were so bad, and Relic says Spurs were anti-football. Notorious Nerd says Anthony going to score this game week. Hard to argue, really, to be honest. But that's my punt for this week. I'm hot on Man United for the next 4 games. Rich, we've now got your team on screen. Do you want to run us through it and tell us your plans this game week? Very jealous of your team, apart from Mings.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for Mings is the issue. So Pope in goal. Hopefully he'll get plenty of save points from all those Spurs shots from outside the box, which is inevitable. Cancelo, Trippier pick themselves. Mings is I've still got to play Mings given Dunk is away to City and Williams is at home to Liverpool. I can't play either of those, so was tempted to make a defensive transfer this week. Still might, but the midfield's fine. I've got carried Foden through. Have Martinelli, Salah, Zaha away to Everton. Could do all right, but he would be my transfer out to Saka if I was going to make a midfield transfer. Andreas is benched, and then up front I've got Mitrovic, Haaland captain, and Callum Wilson. So my moves are going to be either Zaha to Saka, Tyrone Mings to someone like Gabriel, which is not really going to make much difference, is it? Or the punty one, which is going to be, I've just got enough money, 1.7 in the bank. I've got enough money to do Wilson to Darwin, Nunez. So I'm waiting for the pressers. That feels like a nice edge to have both Salah and Nunez for Forest. And then, of course, I can go to Jesus next week if Jesus doesn't get booked. So that's kind of a nice path. It does avoid Saka, but if you've got Martinelli and Jesus against Forest, that doesn't seem a bad bad set of options, does it? So yeah, those are my options, and I'm going to enjoy the fact that I didn't make a transfer last night. I'm going to look at the press conferences, look at the numbers, and make a late call. And if we get early team news tomorrow, then Nunez could be cracker.
I just think that Wilson to Nunez is the one out of all the ones you've mentioned there, Rich, this week.
Yeah. Would you do that? Would you?
Oh,
would you do that? Would you do that, Gian? Would you do that or not?
You're in a really good position. I'd actually consider the Mings move. I don't exactly know who Villa are playing, but I guess they have a new manager bounce. Maybe give them a game before you do that. But yeah, I could certainly consider it. I really like Nunez' prospects.
I don't like the Zaha move, right? So Palace have got Everton, Bournemouth, West Ham, and Forest.
It's not necessary to move him out.
It's not, absolutely not. I like Bowen. I think I prefer Bowen to Zaha, but I don't think it's worth a transfer from Zaha to Bowen or Sa. I think Zaha, just let him sit there, and maybe I've even thought about upgrading Andreas, and the only reason I haven't is because Fulham's fixtures have been pretty decent, and they still are next to it. They've still got Leeds and Everton next to it. So if you need him off your bench, he's there. But I'm still tempted. If you didn't do Wilson to Nunez, for example, you could upgrade Andreas to Rashford, or find another million from somewhere else and get in another 8 million midfielder.
Could downgrade Pope to Kepa and do that, something like that. But yeah, there's options there. I mean, I've still someone tweeted out, has anyone not taken a hit yet this season? And I haven't, and I would like to try and keep that run going to the World Cup if I can. And not that I'm averse to hits, if they're going to in double game weeks and stuff. But yeah, I don't think I need to take a hit this week with that team.
Chris Broughton is showing off, Rich. He says, I have the same team as you, other than I have Dyer and not Mings. He says I have that. Right. Brilliant. Lots in the chat about Nunez. Adam is in the chat saying Nunez is being monitored and is a doubt. And NK says, he's getting a scan on that muscle issue. So everyone really needs to take things. And it's not just the fact of bringing in Nunez. If Nunez is out, I think it makes Salah for these next two really, really good.
Play through the middle.
Forest and Leeds. I don't. Well, it all depends. It's going to be one of those.
Say Nunez is out. Will you captain him?
I don't know, but
I'll be tempted just to have some fun.
I'd be very tempted. The only thing is they're playing first. That's the only problem. They're playing first. Is if he flops, you've then got to not enjoy the Man City game having Haaland and Foden, which obviously should be a nice feast to settle down to. But we'll see. Jen, we haven't got the slide for your team, sadly, because you fell asleep. What time this morning?
7:20.
7:20. So Jan is a night owl, everyone. First, it was 7:20. Posted a thread and then went back to bed and woke up just before the pod. But you just want to kind of tell us your transfer thoughts. This week,
sure.
Jan.
So I've gone Zaha to Foden with the free transfer. Then I went Solanke to Tony for a -4. The reason I did that is because I wanted to play a bit aggressive this week. I can see Tony outscoring Solanke by at least 4 points in the next two. And I didn't really like Solanke's prospects for West Ham and Spurs. So I thought, I literally have nothing else to do with the team. I had the money in the bank. So I was like, I'm not really looking at changing the midfield from now to the end. The defense, maybe a little bit, but again, it's not a big deal. So I thought I'd just go for that.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. All good, I think. Any comments here, Rich?
No, I think I did quite keen on Tony, aren't you? I just I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't bring in a player on 4 yellow cards just because
I'm like that as well, Rich.
Be worried about the suspension. But someone in the chat said, problem with Jesus is the 4 yellow cards. But you want him for the Forest game.
Game's
as long as he doesn't get a yellow card this week, it's probably worth taking a risk on for the Forest game, and then you can move him on in 15 if he does get booked. But I get the point with the 4 yellow cards. It does worry me, and so bringing in loads of people are transferring in Saliba still. They're still getting Saliba in, and he's on 4 yellow cards. I mean, just basically you're looking at missing a game there, and you don't want that.
He just has to avoid it for 2 games because I'm selling him for the last week for City, so he better avoid it for 2 games. Yeah.
No, he's a good brush out again against Villa. That's he's probably going to score.
Hopefully.
Adam Skyven at work says Gian, he is considering the exact same moves. So yeah.
Okay, that's coming from Adam Hopcroft.
Hopcroft, it is. A quick look at my team. I think this is my team. Yeah, it is. Ward or Pope in goals. That's an interesting one, guys. Ward or Pope in goals. Ward is away to Wolves. Pope is away to Tottenham. They're predicted to score basically the same amount of points.
Pope.
Yeah.
Just a save points. He could easily get 6 saves and some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, Wolves, like, I really don't rate Wolves. I really like Matthias Nunez, but apart from that, I really don't rate. Yeah, probably Pope, but I really wouldn't mind going with Wood either.
Thanks, guys. Really, really useful there. My defence this week at the moment is Cancelo, Gehi, and Trippier. I haven't done this transfer yet, but I will be doing Trossard to Foden, so I'll have a midfield of Salah, Martinelli, Foden, and Zaha. Pretty standard. That's the same as yours, I think, Rich, as well. Yeah. And I've got at the moment Haaland, Mitrovic, and Solanke. Now, I think I have 2 point. It's either 2.8 or something. I've like ridiculous money in the bank, and a move. I am eyeing up potentially for a hit. But I don't like this week. That 11 for me includes. I have to play either Solanke or Andreas. Basically, Solanke away to West Ham, which I don't really like. Andreas away to Leeds, I don't really like. It's just playing.
Leeds were crap though last night.
He was, but it's playing Andreas and Mitrovic, and they're like. Yeah. Oh, okay. They looked okay last night. Oh, how lucky was Mitrovic's penalty, by the way? Do you think?
No, yeah.
Away to Leeds.
Fulham looked good last night. No, like forget the Leeds picture. Okay. I can understand why you want to bench him, but yeah, the penalty was very, very lucky.
So I'm not sure whether to just be aggressive this week and do a Solanke out for a hit to someone like Scamacca or Tony, because I just think if I don't do it this week, I'll probably want to do it next week anyway, and I'm kind of booking in transfers. So to your point, Rich, which I think is is really important. I hate being a week behind the curve on things. I like being at a point where I can look and make an individual decision based on what I think might happen, rather than just like bringing in Foden this week. I'm doing it. Sorry, I'm not doing it because everyone else is doing it, but I'm doing it because it is the obvious move. I don't like making the obvious move every week. I like to try and get ahead of that. And I think if I can do this Scamacca move early, it gives me a differential. It gives me a striker with 3 home games in 4 who's looked in good form. And it also allows me next week to look at the next thing. I suppose what I'm saying. So that's what I'm thinking about. Any thoughts on that?
I would just do the Foden move and not take a hit.
You'd say that, Rich.
You take too many hits.
Jan, what you
I'd say,
you definitely sound like my dad there, Rich. Don't take too many hits. Don't take too many hits.
I'd say come and join me in the Tony Club.
The Tony Club. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Something to think about there.
I was surprised that Adam's bringing Tony in, considering he's playing Villa. Or considering it, at least.
He did say in our chat that he wishes he hadn't brought Solanke. He did bring, after all his ragging out of Solanke, he brought him in this week, and he says he wishes he hadn't. He wishes he'd gone for Tony now. But yeah. Okay, yeah, much to think about. But definitely Trossard to Foden, and it's either play Andreas, which I'm not overly now, and I've got to be honest, even though they do have leads.
He was great last night. He played really well last night.
Got no points,
Rich. Brilliant.
Got no points.
Brilliant.
He's still, even with Willian in the team, he's taken all the set pieces. He's for 4.6. He's absolutely mustard. Very playable, Andreas Pereira, especially against a non top 6 team.
I don't know. I'll see.
Very playable.
I've enjoyed this season. Like, I'm not having a great season. I'm 276k, which is it's very reasonable. But I'm not like flying. But I'm really enjoying it because I'm not spending hours overthinking on things and deliberating things. I'm just doing what I think, which I'm really enjoying this season. Because I think in the last season or two, I've been a bit preoccupied with just massively overthinking things, and it's not good, is it? It's not fun. Whereas this year, I'm just going, do you know what? I'm going to do this. I could even do do you know what? I might even have the money to Andreas to Rashford. Now that would be
you do.
You'll
have it.
Yeah,
easily.
I mean, after talking him up like that, away to Chelsea, that's ballsy. That is ballsy.
Oh, no, that's a move. Yeah. That is a move. But
that
means I'm stuck with Solanke.
After Chelsea. What are United's fixtures?
It's Fulham in 16.
I think the fixtures in 15 and 16 are pretty good. I think
15's all right. They're away.
West Ham, is it? Yeah,
I think
it's Chelsea. Oh, actually, I've got it here. I've got it in front of me. They got Chelsea, West Ham, Villa, and Fulham.
Yeah, it's Villa. That's it.
But if I do that, it means I'm stuck with Solanke's price point. That's the only problem there. So something to think about.
I can't wait till Rashford blanks.
Rashford's on the edge of the World Cup squad, isn't he? Do you think he'll make the squad? I mean, he's got a chance of making the squad with Ronaldo in bad books, and if he play well, he could force his way in, couldn't he? So he's going to be motivated.
Rashford's the one this week.
Yeah.
I think he's a different profile to the type of players England have. They have a lot of like Grealish, Foden, Saka, those type of players, slightly more indirect, but at least with Rashford, you get something more direct if he ever wanted to bring him off the left. So maybe.
I might
you
do
into
that.
it
It's a hit. It's the only problem. It's not for free.
Yeah.
It's a hit, but I don't know. I'll see.
Oh, because you're still getting Foden then.
I'm still getting Foden. Oh, I'm
right.
doing that 100%. But it does mean I'm stuck with Solanke's price point then, which I'm not overly enamoured about. I'll have to have a think. Competition time for our YouTube watchers. We did have a Game Week 10 winner for Cancelo. I feel awful. It's always the part. This is always the part when I'm prepping that I do last. And I've run out of time this morning because I was just so jammed with work this morning. But I know we did have a winner for Cancelo. I've got a feeling it's FPL Finding Glory, but whoever it was, could you mail me again, please, and send me a screenshot, and we will sort that out for you. We didn't have a winner for Game Week 11 because obviously we did 11 and 12. 11 was Alisson anyway, so no one had gone for Alisson. Game Week 12 was Mason Mount. No, 11 was... Jeez, what am I talking about here? Our Game Week 11 winner competition was Mason Mount, and no one picked Mason Mount, but we did have one for Cancelo in Game Week 10. Anyway, for this week's competition, and for a chance with one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs, you need to like this video. Only 10% of our current watchers have liked the video. Please press the like button. It would be much, much appreciated. Make sure you are subscribed and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in Game Week 13. The mug is over Rich's shoulder there. Absolutely brilliant piece of kit there. Jan, who is your punt for this week?
I'll go someone that no one else is going to go. I'll go Virgil van Dijk. Score a bullet header.
Oh, I like that. Nice 15-pointer for Van Dijk against Forest. Rich, who do you think is going to be the top point scorer in Game Week 13?
I'm not allowed to go for...
You can't go for like Haaland or Salah.
Yeah. I'll go for Darwin then.
I think that's fair. I think this week, I think we're getting a goal. I think we're getting a goal out of Marcus Rashford, so I'm going to go for Rashford. Sorry, guys. I'm saying this against Chelsea fans. I'm not saying United will win. I'm not saying United will win, but I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think there'll be a few goals, and I think 2-1 either way. But I think Rashford really, really does that. He was so unlucky midweek. Lloris's saves, especially the second one he made against it, was absolutely out of this world.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
How good was Lloris, by the way, against Spurs?
That was awesome.
The saves he made were unreal.
Some of the goalkeeper performances recently, from Kepa, from Lloris,
right.
They've been absolutely outstanding. Kepa had a worldie last weekend, didn't he? Against
the Ings had
Villa. Yeah, against Villa. Yeah, Villa were great for the first half, and he was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Matthew says Solanke's got 2 good fixtures in 15-16. That's a good shout. So I could hold on to him, and I could bring in Rashford. Yeah, that's a good shout. Do you know what? That might have tipped me over the edge on doing a hit for Rashford.
That puts you into a 3-5-2 as an option.
It does. I play that this week, and then
you just bench Solanke when you don't fancy playing him.
This is it.
Good first sub.
Colin has gone for Firmino. We've got Darwin, Nunez, Salah, Xhaka. Luke's gone for Xhaka. Trent, Cancelo, Bowen, Trent, Jesus, Martinelli. Yeah, a lot of popular ones. And Gotso Colin's gone for Rashford. Come on. Zulu Badge has gone for Anthony. I like that as well. Jefferson's gone for Mitrovic. Martin Beasley's gone for Firmino. Some good picks there. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Get in your pick for a chance to win a mug. We're also going to give away a mug this week. It's a belated one, and I must apologise. But James Thompson actually came up with the name Rich Pickens, Rich, for your section of the show, and I still haven't acknowledged it. So apologies, James. Send me a DM at FFH_Fergie, and I will sort you out with a mug. That is it from us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Apologies we went at midday this week on the Friday, but obviously we wanted everything to be done so we can have a clear run next midweek. But thank you so much for everyone who's joined us. We hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast version. Your support, as usual, is much, much, much appreciated. Just a reminder, our new My Team feature is now live to use yourself to pick, plan and optimise your FPL team. And our community feature, if you haven't seen it, download the app, get on the community feature. It's absolutely brilliant. You can chat FPL with loads and loads of people in there. We've also got forums for Sky, Telegraph, Sun Dream Team. We've got a World Cup forum. We've got teams for it. If you're an Arsenal fan, go in and chat Arsenal with our Arsenal fans. It's really good. There's still 30% off membership as well. As Neil says, hit the like, you mugs. Please do that. Gian, thank you so much for joining us this week. As usual, absolutely superb insight, mate. Where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter at FPL_Gian Batra.
And just a reminder that Gian is Micah Richards' best friend. So if you don't know already, Micah Richards is now an ambassador for Fantasy Football Hub, and he joins Micah not every week, but most weeks over on Spaces on the Deadline. So what time is that this week, Gian?
So just an hour before the deadline. So I believe it's an 11 o'clock deadline, right?
Yeah.
So if so, it'll be 10 to 11. We're back to normal.
Set your alarm, lad.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'll be there. I'm always there.
And Jan's spaces are absolutely brilliant. So make sure you join him on Twitter. Make sure you give him a follow. Micah sometimes joins in as well. It's really good insights off him as well. Rich, thank you so much as usual for joining us. Where can people find you?
I'm on at Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
Lovely job. And don't forget, Rich reveals his team pre-deadline every single week. Rich
still got to do that.
Still got to do that. He's still not sure what to do, but
haven't written it yet, folks.
fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. You get Rich's team reveal. You also get FPL Salah. You get Bakar. You get myself for all fantasy formats. You get Heisenberg. You get lots and lots of team reveals there. So make sure you do that. My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergie, and this podcast and video on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please click the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave us some comments. We'll be back at the usual time of 5:30 p.m. next Thursday, next week, previewing Game Week 14. Have a great Game Week 13 and weekend, and may all your arrows be green. Goodbye for now.